name is Erasmus Aduteye, a PhD student from the University of Maryland, Eastern Shore. And this morning I'll be presenting on the influence of high tunnel and biochar on strawberry growth and development.
Erasmus, could you speak a little louder or turn up your
You can just move that out of the way. Are you looking for sound?
There's no sound. Okay. First of all, one may ask, what is a biochar? Biochar is simply a type of charcoal that is produced under high temperature without the presence of oxygen. It could range between 250 degrees Celsius to somewhere up to 700 or more. So when it happens like that, it burns the organic matter into a form of charcoal that we can use to grow crops or to add to the soil. And this production is believed to have started in the Amazonian basin long ago, but others also argue that this has started in China. So there's a kind of confusion whether it started from the Amazonian basin or from China. And biochar is able to address broader environmental issues such as climate change and also waste management. If you harvest your crop at a season, what is left on the field, which is the organic matter or the residue, can be used to make biochar and add to the soil. And farmers in developing countries mostly do their own biochar. However, people in developed countries try to buy it in larger quantities to grow their crops or add as a soil conditioner. This is the role of biochar in the soil, which helps to retain moisture in the soil and also retain nutrients in the soil. So it also helps to the roots to make good use of the nutrients in the soil, and also helps to improve the soil structure and increases the porosity of the soil so that the roots can penetrate and make good use of the nutrients in the soil. However, biochar can also help to absorb pesticide residue or heavy metals in the soil. So it serves as soil remediation, which cleans the soil. So the research was done to investigate the effects of biochar soil amendment on the growth of strawberry plants, and also to study the effect of biochar on microbial community composition and the strawberry roots. So the experiment was done in pots in a greenhouse with 3 treatments. The first one is the topsoil without biochar. The second one is topsoil with 5% biochar. So what we did is we weighed the weight of the soil, and based on the weight of the soil, we calculated the percentage of the biochar, the 10% and the 5%. And we did randomized complete block design with 4 plants per treatment, and we had 10 replications. So the strawberries that we selected for this research, there are 2 day-neutral strawberries, which is Monterey and Seascape. We selected the day-neutral strawberries because when the conditions are favorable or the temperature is around 25 degrees Celsius, it's able to produce fruit all year round from somewhere late spring or early summer up to late fall. So that's why we use day-neutral strawberries. And 2 weeks after transplanting, we applied NPK 2020 at a rate of 5 gallons per liter. And every 4 weeks, the runners that started growing, or runners that the plants that started producing runners, we cut the runners so that the plants can maintain the vigor and be able to make more use of the nutrient than to channel the nutrients into the runners. And pest management was done by scouting the plants, and if there is the need to spray, then we do that. But if there is no need, we just pick few pests that are, especially Japanese beetle, few of them try to feed on the leaves. So if there are not many, we just handpick them and just trash them. And data was collected on the height of the plant, number of leaves, number of flowers, runners, fruit, and the chlorophyll content every 30 days. With the microbial community composition, we did a 16S RNA sequencing to be able to determine the microbial community around the strawberry root after harvesting. And this helps to determine the richness and the evenness of the microbial community. So based on the results of the study, after 30 days of transplanting, there was no much difference in terms of the number of leaves per plant in both Monterey and the Seascape variety. Each plant has an average of around 6 leaves per plant after 30 days of transplanting. And in terms of runner production, after 30 days of transplanting, we didn't have much runners. The maximum is 2. Some had 1 and some had no runners after 30 days of transplanting. In terms of flower production, after 30 days of transplanting, we use the bare root strawberry. So after 30 days of transplanting, some of the strawberries, the plants, they started producing flowers, which is not normal, because we need to achieve at least 9 leaf stage so that we can allow the plant to grow or to make the fruits, for the fruits to develop. So since we never had a 9 leaf stage, some were 5, 6, so we cut the flowers before within the 30 days. So if you look at this picture, you could see that just the flowers are, the plant is very young, but they started producing flowers, and which if we leave it, it's not going to make, we are not going to have any bigger fruit. So we decided to cut the flowers so that once they achieve 9 leaf stage, we allow the flowers to produce. And
yeah, well, that's because they're day neutrals.
Pardon?
Those plants are day neutrals. That's why they're producing a lot of flowers.
Yes, thank you. Yes. So this is around 3rd week in June. We planted late May. So around 3rd week in June, 4th week, then they started producing flowers. And you are right, because they are day neutral. So with the spot reading, and the one on the left,
SPAD stand for?
soil plant, the spot reading, the soil plant analysis development. I think it should be SPAD. It measures the chlorophyll content in the leaves. Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So to check the chlorophyll content in the leaves, we measured 30 days and 60 days. So the one on the left is the 30 days chlorophyll content, and the range is somewhere between 25 to 35. And after 60 days, we had the range is around 35 to 50. And a good chlorophyll content in a healthy strawberry plant should be around 35 to 50 units. So within the first 30 days, we never achieved this range. But 60 days, we were able to achieve between 35 to 60 SPAD units. And this is supposed to, a higher chlorophyll content is supposed to give you a higher yield. But in this case, I didn't get much yield in terms of the chlorophyll content. It didn't manifest in the yield of the variety. So looking at the yield, per plant, 5% biochar produced a higher yield per plant compared to 10% and control. And that was in the Seascape variety. But when you compare the Monterey variety, the yield per plant between 5, 10, and control, there was not much difference. The control had 0.18 kilogram per plant, and 10% biochar also had almost the same, with 5% having a higher yield, 0.2, which is, there is no much difference. But when you compare the Seascape variety, it had a 0.4 kilogram per plant in the 5% biochar, which is, it did way better than the Monterey. And before last year, I did another study just to compare Monterey to Portola. And I also realized that Monterey variety didn't do well in terms of yield compared to Portola. So Monterey doesn't do well around the, I will not say Eastern Shore, around our area, Somerset County. And we try to track the yield per plant from July to November, and we realized that September and October are the months that plants have higher yield, or they produce more yield compared to early summer. And in the greenhouse, around November, the plants also had some bit of flowers, but that one didn't, most of the flowers didn't produce fruit because it was cold, and the fruit that started forming, some became very soft and they couldn't survive.
So, I mean, is there a statistical difference in his yield results in, you know, I know one graph's higher than the other, but statistically, is it higher? I mean, is it really basically the same?
In terms of statistics, the months of September and October.
Yeah, but I mean between the control and the 5 and 10%.
No. The control and 10% don't have much difference.
They look all the same.
They look all the same. And looking at the effect of biochar on the strawberry growth, development, and the root microbes, the result shows that 5% biochar had a higher cyanobacteria compared to control and 5%. And cyanobacteria is one of the bacteria that fix atmospheric nitrogen into the soil, and the plant will be able to use this kind of nitrogen and also contribute to soil fertility. And the 5 main bacteria that was found in the soil microbe analysis are the cyanobacteria, proctobacteria, actinobacteria, plantomycetes, and chloroflexi. And actinobacteria is another bacteria that also helps in organic matter decomposition in the soil, and also helps in nutrient cycling to contribute to soil fertility. And chloroflexi also contribute to organic matter degradation in oxygen limited environments. So based on the study, we conclude that biochar application have positive effect on the growth parameters, and also the introduction of biochar into the soil positively influence the soil microbial community. And moving on to the high tunnel experiment, the same varieties were grown in a high tunnel, which measures 70 feet by 40 feet, and the height is 70 feet. And the Monterey and the Seascape variety was also grown in a high tunnel to compare how they do in the high tunnel and the greenhouse. So just 30 days after transplanting, they started producing runners. Compared to the greenhouse, they produce more runners than the greenhouse within the first 30 days of transplanting. So the greenhouse, before the first 30 days, that's when we were constructing it. So if you look at the picture, the first picture at the back was not covered. So, but before the winter, everything was covered, and we were able to have a microclimate for the growth of the strawberries. So the runners were cut every 4 weeks to be able to allow the plant to grow. And the weed management was done with weed whacker, and the places that we couldn't get closer to the plastic, because if you go closer to the plastic, it's going to rip up the plastic. So those ones were done by hand pulling. And we had flowers from July up to late October. So the high tunnel was able to give us a kind of microclimate and to extend the growing season for the strawberries. And the harvesting lasted up to the second week in November. However, after second week in November, there were still flowers in the high tunnel. However, it was too cold. So the fruits that lasted beyond the third week in November to early December, they became whitish and soft. And most of them too didn't, they didn't ripe. You will see that they are ripening, but some parts look whitish and some parts look like they look red. So we didn't factor that one into the research. And comparing the two cultivars in terms of runner production, Monterey had an average of 7 runners per plant compared to Seascape, which had an average of 11 runners per plant. And in the high tunnel, it took approximately around 32 weeks for the Monterey to produce the first flower and 35 for the Seascape to produce flowers. And in terms of the flowering duration, Monterey didn't last that much compared to Seascape. Seascape lasted like 14 more days in terms of the flowering duration of flowering days. So Seascape lasted a bit more, approximately 2 weeks compared to Monterey. But the number of leaves after 30 days, there was no much difference between the Monterey and the Seascape variety. And the yield per plant was around 0.31 kg in the Monterey and 0.52 kg in the Seascape variety. So in the high tunnel, the Seascape did way better than the Monterey, and they produce larger fruits too compared to the Monterey.
Was that the total yield over the period of 4 months?
Yes, the total yield per plant. And in the month of October, that was the month that we had higher yield in the high tunnel. And in terms of workshop to educate others or people on what we do, we had extension. We do programs where H4 youth and other people come, and whenever there's a workshop, we go to educate them about not just agriculture, but backyard gardening, how they can also grow their own fruits and vegetables. So the kids, we ask them simple questions, and if they get to know the answer, whether they know or they don't know, we correct them, or we all come together. We have a kind of game, and at the end, each of them gets one strawberry plant, and they take home. So we have like a guide, a manual, show them how to take care of the plant from start to finish, and what to do, what not to do. So this is at the Warwick in Salisbury, Warwick Community College. And this was at UMES. We also had like a poster on strawberry cultivation in the Delmarva Peninsula. So they come and they read the poster, they come with their parents, they read the poster. So once they read the poster, the answers are on the poster. And we have series of questions. So we make them like 2-3 questions, and they just put down the answers. At the end of it, they also get the chance to take one strawberry plant home. And this is the late October, where we also had a workshop on campus on the farm, where farmers also came to look at how the strawberry is doing in the high tunnel. So this is somewhere late October. We still had some fruits and flowers in the field. And what happened is the plants in the high tunnel, compared to the ones in the greenhouse, the ones in the high tunnel produce a lot of biomass. They grow vegetatively compared to the one in the greenhouse. The greenhouse also did well, but at some point in time, we had a problem with the water in the greenhouse, so that also affected a bit of the results in the greenhouse research. And these are my references. Thank you.
The varieties you use, were they day neutral or they just are regular?
We use day neutral varieties, which is the Seascape and the Monterey. They are day neutral varieties. And with 2022, I used another variety called Portola, which also did well, which is also a day neutral strawberry variety.
So, I may have walked in late. Was there a photograph of the biochar? I'm curious what it looks like. And would you all recommend applying that to your fields for your soil health?
I will recommend, however, there are a series of research on the use of biochar in the soil. This one we used with a pot, we calculated the weight, which is 5%. However, to apply to the field, there is a research, people are also doing research. There is one research ongoing at the Prairie View A&M University in Texas, which they're also using, they recommended 2.5 tons per hectare, which is a lot, which you need to apply to the soil, between 2.5 to 5. However, a lot of research shows that if you apply biochar to the soil, if you look at the soil microbial analysis, only cyanobacteria had a bit, there was a difference among the treatment, which was the 5%. However, the rest had no much difference. So research says that the first year of application of biochar, you don't see any result, any difference. However, you start seeing the difference after 2, 3, or 4 years. So the first year or second year, you might not have any significant difference among the treatments. However, it is recommended.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I mean, the day neutral under high tunnel, the yield seems pretty low, right? Because with June berries, you can get that much yield with 4 weeks harvest window. But this, we're talking about 4 months harvesting. That still seems to have, a very low yield. It's like less than 1 pound per plant, basically, right? How would you explain that? Is that kind of the typical, what's typical with day neutral in our environment, or maybe they have a higher yield potential that we just need to treat them better?
Thank you very much for the question. I was checking about, especially the Seascape variety, to see the average yield per plant, and I also realized that the yield is around 0.68 or more per plant. However, I didn't achieve that yield, which I had 0.5152 per plant. So I was also skeptical a bit about the yield, which if you invest in high tunnel, is supposed to give you more yield.
What's your nutrient? How you fertilization? How do you do that?
We use the fertigation. So I use NPK. I use the fertilizer, which is 2020. So I use 75 gallons of water. That is what I use to water for 2 hours every 2 weeks. So I put the calculation, based on the calculation, is 375 grams of the NPK in the injector, and we run it for 2 hours every 2 weeks. However, when it started fruiting, I increased it to 500, almost double, every 2 weeks.
Did you spray any pesticides on the plants?
The pests, I never had problems with pests, but getting to the end, somewhere late October, November, that is when I saw a lot of aphid at the underside of the leaves.
So on what?
Aphid.
Faith.
Yes.
You didn't say any like botrytis, anthracnose, that kind of issues?
The fruit, yes, that one also affected some of the fruit. And the fruit, the result on the fruit is based on the marketable yield. Some of the, how do you call it? The plants are too small to quantify because they are not marketable.
Okay, thank you.
They are not marketable. The sizes were pretty small to factor into the results. But that was a very good question because the yield was pretty low.
Yeah, like I know, the June berries, our growers can get, I think more than 1 pound per plant if everything goes right, with June berries.
Now,
Go ahead.
the study you did was last year.
Yes, sir.
Did you carry them over to see what you would get for a spring crop off those same 2 varieties in the spring?
Yes, I'm going to repeat the same varieties this summer, and I still have, for the boucher research, I still have the boucher in the pot, which I have to plant in the same pot this season.
Be interested to see what you got off in fruit in the spring off of those same plants. They produce in the fall. That's when they're bred to really produce. But they also produce a decent crop in the spring early.
Yes.
Be interested to see what your production was this spring.
Okay.
And why do they call them day neutral? Because in the summertime, you don't get diddly squat.
Yeah, but you get a good spring flush on it.
Spring and fall, yeah.
Yeah,
Nothing-
exactly.
Okay.
But that Portola is much better than Monterey.
Yeah, Monterey doesn't do well, and one problem too is that the fruit is very soft. So if you harvest it, it doesn't take long for you see that if you put them together, they are clustered. The fruit they start peeling against each other too. The fruit also had a problem.
In our area, in Monterey, you have to really be looking out for mold problems. We stopped planting them years and years ago because you get too much mold in them.
Okay.
You don't get that with the other 2 varieties.
Okay. Thank you.